life, the bright lights, the type the crowd likes. Where you at, ballers? Ladies love me and men, they wanna be me, they pay to come see me. Where you at, ballers?
Hornets at Pistons, NBA shot clock, 124-24, best bet of the day. Pistons minus 2.5, 1 unit. Charlotte comes into tonight's game having just traded arguably their best player, Terry Rozier, to the Heat. GM Mitch Kupchak just suggested in a quote yesterday, that is not the only trade coming, and it should be leading to a lot of confusion and turmoil within the locker room. This is also a Charlotte team that comes into tonight's game 3-0 ATS last 3 off a gigantic, out of their pay grade, outright win on Monday night in Minnesota. Charlotte is 1-4 ATS on the road off a previous road cover. So if they get 1, they don't get 2. Detroit is historically bad at 4-39, but the ATS statistics suggest upward movement. This team did start 3-11 ATS at home. They are 5-2 last 7 and 4-0 last 4, with very impressive covers against Houston, Minnesota, and 2 against Milwaukee. This numerical scaling is suggesting an outright win is coming with some emphasis. And look no further than October 27th, the last time these teams played in Charlotte. Detroit 111, Charlotte 99. Detroit matches up very well with this young roster, and books agree and are telling us that story with the line. In that game, Charlotte was favored -4. This moves across 6.5 points with strength to Detroit, suggesting Detroit gets them tonight by 6 or 7 points. Buy this tonight, best bet of the day, Detroit Pistons -2.5, 1 unit.
What's going on, beautiful people? Junior Browne back with NBA Shot Clock on this Wednesday, January 24th, with more free picks. We're rocking with the Minnesota Timberwolves -11.5 today. One of the few times all season y'all will see me bet a double-digit spread. Whenever I do that, it's very much a situational pick. The situation is as follows. The Minnesota Timberwolves are coming off one of the most embarrassing losses I've personally ever seen. Karl Anthony Towns got benched in a game where he scored 62 points, one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen, and the coach was justified in my opinion, because all he was trying to do was score points as opposed to playing the game the right way to win. And his teammates are complicit because they just kept feeding him the ball instead of doing what they needed to do to win the game, which ultimately cost them at home. And this is a Minnesota team that's in the toughest division in the NBA. Minnesota got 30 wins. Denver has 29 wins. Oklahoma City has 30 wins. It's a murderer's row in their division. So they cannot afford to be dropping games they're supposed to win. That's 2 losses in a row. They come into Washington right now, who are 2-8 in their last 10 home games straight up. Give me Minnesota, a pissed off Minnesota, a Minnesota that has a game tomorrow at Brooklyn. Give me Minnesota -11.5 in a situation where they just got embarrassed at home by not only the other team, but by their coach in the post-game press conference. Let's cash this ticket, y'all.
Cavaliers Bucks, Central Division rivalry, NBA shot clock, January 24th. Taking a home team -6.5, 1 unit. Milwaukee comes into tonight's game 2-9 ATS last 11. Far too cold. In fact, so cold, the coach just got fired before tonight's game. Insert interim manager Joe Prunty. You may ask, who is Joe Prunty? 9-year assistant with the Spurs, dating back to 3 championship years in the late 90s and early 2000s. This will be the coaching jolt Giannis and the boys want in a huge divisional revenge game against scorching hot Cleveland. 18-7 last 25, 4-0 straight up last 4. All emphatic blowouts. Chicago, Milwaukee, Atlanta, and Orlando. Speaking of a game against Milwaukee, it was January 17th in Cleveland. Cleveland laid down the hammer against the Milwaukee backups, 135-95. Cleveland was favored by 1 point in that game. Milwaukee's favored by 7. Speaking to a margin line and emphasis, The last time Milwaukee had a big revenge game at home, they did hammer the Celtics by 33 points. Milwaukee has another level in them. The new coach should jolt it. Buy this one tonight, and let's cash Milwaukee minus 6.5, 1 unit.
What's up, y'all? Junior Browne back with NBA Shot Clock on this Wednesday, January 24th, with my second pick, which is going to be the under 213.5 in this Grizzlies Heat game. Big move by the Heat, getting the walking corpse that was Kyle Lowry out of the building. Bringing in Terry Rozier, who's balling out of his mind. I seen a stat online recently who Terry Rozier's stats and Dame stats are almost identical, which is crazy. Rozier seems like the perfect Heat guy. But let's stick to tonight's game, where even though I think the energy from that trade is going to be in the building, you're going to be able to feel it, Miami's offense has just not looked good recently. Now, their defense is the reason why I'm capping this game the way I am. They've only allowed 103 points per game in their last 5 games. The problem is their offense has been terrible during that span. A 5-game span just happens to be how long the Grizzlies have been out with Desmond Bane. Losing Ja was always a huge blow. Losing Desmond Bane is a death blow. This team without those two guys are just offensively inept. They're averaging 103 points per game without Desmond Bane. I think they're going to have a hard time getting to 100 points tonight, which has been a problem for them. In 3 of the last 5 games, they've scored less than 100 points. This Miami team is locked in defensively. I think they win this game, but I can't lay 9.5 points with them. I'm going to stick to what I know they do, and that's defend. Same thing with the Grizzlies, if we're being real. The Grizzlies are a good defensive team, too. Give me the under 213.5, and let's cash this ticket, y'all.
Suns at Mavericks, 8:30 Eastern, ABC National, Dallas, Texas. Taking the Mavericks, plus 1.5, 1 unit. Dallas comes into tonight's game off a home loss on Monday night to arguably the best team in the sport, the Boston Celtics. 119-110, a box score that suggests Dallas could have won that game had they made a few more shots. Dallas this year, off a home loss, staying in their home gym, is 4-1 straight up ATS with complete utter blowouts against the Clippers, Utah, and the Pelicans out of the Western Conference. Speaking of the Western Conference, Phoenix comes in here a little too hot. 11-3 last 14 straight up on a 6-game outright winning streak, flirting with disaster, barely got there against Indiana without Tyrese Halliburton, scraped by, down 23 against Chicago, now traveling to a Dallas team that already hammered them on Christmas Day in Phoenix, 128-114. Luka Doncic lit them up for 50 points. He's been doing this his whole career. He will be ready to go tonight, and the line is telling you that story. Phoenix was favored in that game, minus 5.5. This opens at a short 1, indicating books think that Dallas will get them again, despite the revenge element. Buy Dallas tonight, plus 1.5, and let's cash this ticket.
What's up, y'all? Junior Browne back with NBA Shot Clock on this Wednesday, January 24th, and I had a couple leads I wanted to share with y'all. These are not officials. I still got a little bit more homework I want to do before I get to the window and invest, but I did want to share this information with y'all. Rockets team total over 115.5 is my first lean. My second lean is Warriors Hawks game total over 233. So we'll start with the Warriors Hawks. I feel like that 233 number is a market overreaction to Trae Young being out, and I get it. It's not the same with them out, but the Hawks are still a competent team without him. They're 2-2 on the season. They've got DeJounte Murray in audition mode. And what do I mean by audition mode? If you're not paying attention to the NBA, or at least what's going on with the Hawks, DeJounte Murray is most likely not going to be a Hawk for too much longer. And he's doing his best to show possible suitors what he's capable of. So the best version of DeJounte Murray, without Trae Young, is still good enough for them to compete. With Trae Young in the lineup, Hawks totals average 242 a game. With him out the lineup, they're at 236. Golden State's game totals average 235. This total is 233. Again, that's not enough to make me blindly take the over. I still want to do some more homework on the on-off numbers with Trae Young out, but my lean is to the over in that game. As for the Rockets game, the Rockets are in a weird situation where in the last 10 games, they've gone 5-5, which is not good by their standards. But let's dig deeper into those numbers. In their 5 losses, they're averaging 112 points a game. In their 5 wins, they're averaging 122 points a game. And they got a Portland team coming into town who played one of their best games of the season last night. Portland was up against Oklahoma City with 15 seconds left in that game, which means they used every ounce of energy they had to compete with one of the best teams in the league. Now you're asking them to travel to Texas to take on a Houston team that's been struggling to get wins at home. It's just too much of an ask for a Portland team that on their best day is one of the worst teams in the league. So give me the Houston Rockets team total over 115.5 in a game I believe they're going to win. Again, I still want to do some more homework about the Rockets offense in a bigger sample size because I am specifically talking about their last 10 home games, but I want to see what they've done as a whole before I invest. But those are my 2 leans for the day, y'all. Rockets team total over 115.5. Warriors Hawks game total over 233.
Thunder at Spurs, 9:30 p.m. San Antonio, Texas. Playing the total in this game over 240.5, 1 unit. These teams met back on November 14th, and the game went drastically under, 123-87. The key point in this evaluation, the number there was 236. San Antonio just couldn't shoot the basketball on that given day. Now books moved the line up to 240.5, and you ask yourself why. Oklahoma City is on a home road back-to-back, a spot they will score the ball well, but they won't defend. The only other time this year Oklahoma City had a home road back-to-back, they did play at Atlanta, a team with very similar metrics to the Spurs. Atlanta, 5th pace, 27th defensive rating. Spurs, 3rd pace, 25th defensive rating. When Oklahoma City matches up with a young team that wants to run and not defend, they will score the ball. Oklahoma City is 3rd in points per game this year across the entire league with a top 10 pace and the 2nd field goal percentage in the sport. This game projects to be wide open, over 250 points tonight. Buy this one, enjoy a lot of points, and let's cash the over 240.5.